All right, so today we are at the opening session of the virtual Clean Fuels Summit. If you've been to one of our Clean Fuels Summits in the past, you know that we love to put on a good event, feed you well, and have a lot of fun with networking and ride and drives. Last year, we had a fantastic racetrack that we got to do some lead follow ride and drives. That was a lot of fun. And we plan to do the same again. So we're looking at doing the next Clean Fuels Summit in potentially Northwest Louisiana. And we will get back with you all as soon as we start securing a venue, but look for an event in person in the fall of 2022. So today, the speakers that will be presenting are going to be myself and my co-coordinator, Tyler Herrmann from Louisiana Clean Fuels, and Courtney Young. She's a director of the Southeast Louisiana Clean Fuel Partnership. And together, we all cover the entire state of Louisiana for the Clean Cities program. So a little bit about Clean Cities for those of you who may not know who we are. Clean Cities Coalitions, it's a Department of Energy program that came out of the Clean Air Act. And we each have our own distinct programs, and we're set up a little bit differently. But what we all have in common is that we work to reduce transportation emissions. We work to build partnerships between public and private entities, and we connect you with resources to help you with your clean transportation projects. There are about 80 coalitions across the country, I think, what we have right now, and this is probably the most up-to-date map, but if there's not, we have one on our website. But if there isn't a Clean Cities Coalition in your area, the one closest to you is the best one to call. We will all be there to help, and we don't compete against each other. We all share and help with one another. So where does Clean Cities fit within the Department of Energy? So in the Department of Energy and the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Division, we have a Vehicle Technologies Office. And under the Vehicle Technologies Office, we have these divisions that you see here, and technology integration fits in underneath the VTO, and that's where Clean Cities resides. We are a fuel agnostic organization. And many of us are nonprofits. Some of us are hosted in energy departments within state agencies. Some of us are in COGS or planning commissions. But what we all have in common is that we are here to give you that unbiased advice and information about what is available now, what's working now, and connecting you with the resources and funding and other fleet managers and such to help you with your project. So to go through a little bit about what's going on, I'm going to start with Louisiana Clean Fuels and give you an update on what we're doing and what we're working on. And then Courtney is going to talk about the Southeast Louisiana Clean Fuels Partnership. Then Tyler will then talk about the Volkswagen Settlement funding and our joint Green Fleets certification program. It's statewide. So here in Louisiana, we really believe that it's our job to work to remove the barriers and remove the excuses that fleets or individuals may have into making a change and adopting cleaner technologies or cleaner vehicles. So we want to make sure that the process is easy as possible. The fueling infrastructure in the state of Louisiana for many of the alternative fuels hasn't changed much, but what changes daily right now is the number of electric vehicle fueling stations. And you can go to the AFDC, the Alternative Fuels Data Center. It is the best way to find out how many stations there are in any state for alternative fuels. And in order to improve our fueling infrastructure, there's a Federal Highway Administration program, Alternative Fuel Corridors. And what that does, it's an unfunded program that allows us to put signage on our interstate highways to let motorists know when and where there are alternative fuel stations. So in the state of Louisiana, what we're showing here on the screen is the electric vehicle corridors. The dashed lines show corridors that are pending. The solid green lines show ones that are complete. If I was to show you the natural gas or the propane corridors, you would see that nearly all of our interstates are completely covered and they are approved for those fuels. So we do have natural gas and propane corridors, and we have a partial corridor for liquefied natural gas. But where the growth is happening and where the need is right now is to expand and to grow our electric vehicle charging corridors. So that is a project that we will be working on with our partners to expand access to fast charging on our interstate corridors. And so this is what the signs look like. And you see that nice little hole right here that is just waiting for us to add electric vehicles on there. So when you see that, think about us. There you go. Now, these numbers for Louisiana are draft. We have not gotten back approval from the Department of Energy yet for the numbers that we have submitted, but generally it's not going to change much. This is our historical petroleum reduction numbers. So this is how much alternative fuel has been used and how much we are offsetting that would have normally been petroleum-based gasoline or diesel. So we have offset this amount. And you can see our growth has been phenomenal over the years. When we first started in our expansion from the Greater Baton Rouge Clean Cities Coalition back in 2012 to opening up to 56 parishes. So we went from 5 parishes to 56 parishes in our territory. You can really see how the expanded service area that we have and our ability to support fleets across the state, it really allowed us to get out and work with fleets all over the state to improve the infrastructure and such. And we really have seen a lot of growth. So when you see state numbers for Louisiana being low in the rankings when you don't want it to be low and high when you don't want them to be high, you can feel good about the fact that your 2 Clean Cities coalitions, and these are just my numbers, these aren't even Courtney's, that we really are making progress in Louisiana to offset transportation emissions with cleaner technologies. But one thing that you will see here that it's not really worrisome, the fact that our greenhouse gas emissions reduced this year were less than last year. Sometimes this is just a nature of the reporting. The fleets that report to us voluntarily. Sometimes, of course, especially due to COVID and some things that are going on with business, people may not be able to get their numbers into us, or their numbers may be affected by their businesses being hit hard by some of the shutdowns over the years. But what you can see here is there's a lack of fuel economy improvements in some of the fleets. So we're able to report for about 3 years fuel economy improvements that a fleet undertakes. After those 3 years, it has to be a new project. So that's what you're seeing here in some instances. You're starting to see this red line here. We are starting to see a growth in electric and plug-in vehicles in the state of Louisiana. Most of these numbers reflect our 2 transit fleets. Shreveport, we have Sportran that has Proterra electric transit buses, and the Capital Area Transit System in Baton Rouge, which has BYD electric transit buses. And as they expand their fleets and buy more of these buses, and other fleets such as Entergy and also our very own DEQ, who are starting to purchase electric vehicles for their fleet, you're going to see this number starting to increase. Down here, when you see the blue, these are the other alternative fuels. So they're separating electric from the other alternative fuels, from natural gas, propane, liquefied natural gas, and such. And we did have a growth in natural gas use in our state this year. Now, the greenhouse gas emissions reduced, we like to break it down so that you can see specifically where this is coming from. And although we have a really good amount of alternative fuel use, if you look up here, we have a good amount of fuel use, it represents only 28% of our greenhouse gas emissions reduced. Idle reduction, a gallon of fuel or any fuel that is not used is the best fuel because if you don't burn it, if you don't use it, it's not going to create emissions. So that is the most effective way to get your best bang for your buck to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions or other emissions like NOx. And fuel economy improvements, again, are also phenomenal with that. And again, you see this, if you remember our chart from last year, this was hardly even noticeable, but now it's really starting to show up. So here again, we're trying to look at the GGEs reduced by fuel type. And in my territory, and for Louisiana Clean Fuels, natural gas really expanded. We had a lot more this year. While we still had a growth in electric and there were a lot more propane school buses put on the road, we hadn't yet been able to have enough time to start gathering the data for that. So next year, you're going to see quite some growth, I believe, in propane because of all the school buses awarded under Volkswagen settlement. And you'll start seeing electric steadily start growing. And we're hoping to improve the amount of biodiesel as well that's going to be used in the state. And that is something we will be tracking and working on throughout the year. So this is kind of look like Pac-Man opening and closing here. But what you're doing, it's the same thing, but we're showing each individual fuel and how effective they are at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So here we have mostly 92% CNG, but it's only responsible for 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions reductions because some fuels are a little more effective at reducing this particular type of emission. Like I said, there's many different types of emissions. We're just looking at greenhouse gas emissions today. So biodiesel and renewable natural gas are really effective at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, as are electric vehicles. We had an event in the fall. We did have our Clean Fuel Leader Awards, and this is just a quick review in case some of you have already seen this, but our biannual Catchery Martin Award, which is an award for excellence in just being a leader and being forward thinking and just being an all around phenomenal stakeholder and very supportive, enthusiastic about alternative fuels. This year it went to Scott Barrios. And our Clean Fuel Champion was Republic Services. Our Rising Star Award went to Capital Area Transit System for their implementation of electric transit buses. And we have more of the rest here. So if you wanted to see the entire award ceremony to find out who won for their individual segments, we do have that on YouTube, and you can go to Louisiana Clean Fuels and find our page on YouTube, and that video is there. Sorry, I'm going to stop the share for a moment because I do want to play a video here very briefly for you all.
Here in Louisiana, we are blessed with abundant natural resources and uniquely beautiful landscapes. While our air quality has been steadily improving, we still have a lot of work to do to protect our coast and reduce our carbon emissions. Since its founding over 25 years ago, Clean Cities coalitions like ours have been working together with their stakeholders to implement clean transportation projects and reduce emissions. To learn more, visit our website at louisianacleanfuels.org.
So that was just a little bit about us. We are really starting to push the promotions and trying to get the word out. This piece has played on it's played on one local television station, and we have it up on YouTube, on Facebook, and we are starting to do a little bit of promotions on the radio as well. Getting the word out has really helped. The phone is starting to ring where people are calling and wanting assistance with their fleets. So this is something that we really believe strongly that needs to happen, and we can't do this without y'all's help. And so our membership dues and our membership program is one of the ways that we can raise enough money to have a strong media campaign to help get the word out about the successes that we're having in our state and with our fleets. So I'm going to go back to our presentation here. And again, if any of these videos or any of the webinars that I'm talking about today, you can find them on our YouTube channel. Again, it's called Louisiana Clean Fuels. This is what it looks like when you show up. All the webinars, including this one, they get recorded and posted here so you can view them again and share them later. So our 2021 initiatives, basically the Department of Energy, where we get our designation as a Clean Cities Coalition, we have a suite of tasks that we can select to participate in each year. And Louisiana Clean Fuels has selected the maximum amount of tasks that we can. So we will be working on alternative fuel infrastructure development and corridor planning, which I mentioned earlier. We'll continue to support the state with the Louisiana DEQ with the Volkswagen settlement funding, doing NOx analysis and assisting recipients. We're going to be conducting additional outreach events virtual site tours, workshop, vehicle showcases, and such, and more webinars. We're looking forward to the day we don't have to rely 100% on webinars, but I do believe they're here to stay because it's a great way to get information out across the country. And training and education for fleets. This is technical training such as alternative fuel vehicle safety training for first responders, natural gas fuel system inspection, heavy duty CNG diagnostics, electric vehicle technician training. So if you're in our territory and you would like to get some in-depth technical training, we can assist you with that. We may not be able to pick up the entire bill, but we can help you with that and try to find some funding and a way to offset the costs. And in some cases, we can do some of the training ourselves, which would be at no cost. We also have a support contract with the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources. They are one of our main supporters, and we thank them so much for their support over the years. And each year we have to do 12 outreach events for DNR. This is one, as actually line item number 3, a statewide meeting. We keep up with the newsletter, maintain our social media and website. We have one major fleet project annually. We are responsible for publishing handouts and publications and such, and we have to keep up with our training with Clean Cities. Some of you may be aware, but we are part of a 14-state coalition that has won a grant from the Department of Energy, Drive for EVs in the USA. And we are going to be really building capacity along these states by creating and strengthening branded programs in every state. So we have our own website, Drive Electric Louisiana or Drive Electric LA. We're going to be having educational events, ride and drives. We're working with state and local governments, dealerships, OEMs and such. So this is it's a full project where we're looking at every single part of the process and every single barrier that could potentially exist that would block someone from adopting electric vehicles. We're going to be tackling that in this program. So be looking for some great events coming your way, branded as Drive Electric Louisiana. And these are the websites. We have driveelectricusa.org if you would like to learn more. And here's our website, driveelectric.louisiana.la.org. And we will be building that out more as we develop Drive Electric Louisiana chapters across the state of Louisiana to start hosting some ride and drive and showcase events. We've already started, during COVID, we can't really get out as much. We started doing some Facebook Live events where we're giving quick tutorials and helping people to understand electric vehicles, how to charge, how to buy them, and just some of the basic ins and outs. So that's been a lot of fun. The interns have got us older ones out there doing Facebook Live events for the first time. So it's been a challenge, but it's been a lot of fun as well. The upcoming webinars that we have this year, these are just a few to get started. So there's even more. We're doing a reboot of our popular EV Market Watch webinar on July 14th. And on July 28th, Charge It, Preparing Your Hometown for Electric Transit. Data-driven approach to ZEV for state fleets. This is going to be a very state fleet focused event about helping the state of Louisiana and other states utilize their GPS data and such and their telematics data to really help figure out and optimize their move to electric vehicles. Also, EV Market Watch, we're having another one, but this one's going to be focused on rural transit vehicles, and that's August 25th. All of this can be found on the Louisiana Clean Fuels website under events. Later this week, or actually tomorrow, we're going to be touching on this a whole lot more. But we've been working very closely in the Governor's Climate Initiative Task Force, where the state and the governor has made a goal that we're going to be net zero by 2050. And we are serving on the transportation subcommittee. And I'll let you know that this has been a fascinating process. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing and what our plans are to try to prepare to meet these goals, we have a session tomorrow at 1 o'clock on this. And our first big event together this year, we can't wait, since last year our first golf tournament was March 13th of 2020, which was probably the last day anyone had an in-person event before everyone was put on lockdown. We had a fantastic day out on the course, but we're doing it again, October 11th this fall. So if you want to join in, you want to get a team, you want to buy some player tickets or sponsor, please go to our website, cleanfuelsclassic.com. It will be a great day of networking, and you know we all need it because Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And I'm very happy that you all are here today because of that. But we do want to see you all in person. So check that out. And again, we have to thank all of our members and of course, then our sponsor today, Entergy. All right, so that means Courtney is up. I am done talking for a little while. Are you ready, Courtney? All right, we need to unmute you. Oh, my mouse is, all right, you're not muted on my end.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little bit low, but yeah.
Okay. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us virtually today. Could you go back to the home slide? Thanks. As Ann said, we really can't wait to be able to host the Clean Fuel Summit again in person next year and see all of your smiling faces and be able to connect face to face. But for now, webinars are proving successful for all of the Clean Cities coalitions nationwide. It's really great to be able to post these recordings afterwards for people who missed it, can't make it. So usually we would host our Clean Fleet Leader Awards in person in conjunction with the New Orleans Regional Planning Commission meetings where our coalition is housed. But I wanted to do it a little different this year. We won't be highlighting each of our Clean Fleet leaders, but we are recognizing the top performing fleets by alternative fuels and technologies, and then we have some unique awards at the end to spice things up. I want to make the distinction between our territories, as Ann mentioned. So our coalition covers 8 parishes in Greater New Orleans, which includes Orleans, Jefferson, Plaquemines, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, and Tangipahoa. And we share many of the same Clean Fleet leaders, but we don't share the data. So whatever operations that occur in her territory, she counts those operations, that alt fuel use, those emissions reductions, and we count ours just within our 8 parishes. So you can go to the next slide. So first, we wanted to kick off the awards celebrating our 2 fleets that reached their 10-year milestones as Clean Fleet leaders. So our coalition started in 2008, and last year we recognized our first 2 clean fleets, which were Airport Shuttle and the New Orleans Regional Transit Authority. This year, we're recognizing Limousine Livery and Dr. Pipe for their 10 years as being Clean Fleet leaders. So Limousine Livery pioneered propane transportation in their luxury chauffeur service fleet. They were one of the first fleets in Southeast Louisiana to apply for federal funding from the Department of Energy and were awarded funding for, I think, 20 propane vehicles and propane fueling stations. And they've been serving them well over the last 10 years. And then they started transitioning or incorporating electric vehicles into their fleet as well. And they were also one of our first clean fleets to implement an environmental policy, which they have on their website, and it's really customer based to serve their customers and share their environmental responsibility as a small business and to help reduce emissions in the community. So congratulations to Limo Livery and Dr. Pipe. Next slide. So Dr. Pipe is also one of our few small business clean fleet leaders, and they run over 10 CNG compressed natural gas vans, and they are based in Jefferson Parish and serve the Greater New Orleans region. And it just goes to show that CNG in smaller light duty fleets isn't as common, but it's proven successful to them. And I can't wait to create a case study on Dr. Pipe to help other small fleets or fleets of any size really learn their best practices and lessons over the past decade. So congratulations, Dr. Pipe. And then we'll start by, we'll recognize the top 3 fleets in each alternative fuel category. So first, we have CNG. It's no surprise that UPS is #1 in a couple of our fuel categories. They have over 12,000 alt fuel vehicles on the road. They are our only national clean fleets partner. So they work and they submit their data each year to various clean cities coalitions across the country. And they have 155 CNG delivery trucks that operate in the New Orleans region alone. And you can see the GGEs reduced gasoline gallons equivalent, 660,000 gallons equivalent reduced, and 432 greenhouse gas, tons of greenhouse gases reduced, which is incredible. But not far behind is Metro Service Group and Waste Connections, 2 CNG refuse fleets that have also been in the game for a long time and have proven successful. So congratulations to these 3 top CNG clean fleet leaders. Again, UPS, 81 propane vans in the New Orleans region. And they actually, I just read that they just pledged to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. They have so many innovative practices, technologies, fuels in their rolling laboratory. I'm sure if you haven't registered yet for the session with Mike McDonald at 10 a.m. tomorrow, the freight session, he is UPS's corporate automotive senior director of sustainability and government affairs. So you don't want to miss his session. Thank you for speaking at our event, if you're on the call today. And then Jefferson Transit, our Jefferson Parish Transit Agency, they upgraded their paratransit vehicles, pictured here, to propane. And Rotolo Consultants Inc., RCI, they have a mix of zero-turn propane mowers and box trucks, like shown here in the picture, and then F-350s that all run on propane. They're based in Slidell in St. Tammany Parish. And these are one of the fleets that we had no idea about until I was driving home from work one day and saw a propane sticker on the back of their trucks and called them up and learned all about them. And that tends to happen a lot with coordinators and just fleets that we're unaware of, but they exist. There's probably so many more out there. You can go to the next slide. Okay, for the electricity category, the top performing fleets, New Orleans Regional Transit Authority. They have 81 electric vehicles, including 66 streetcars and these hybrid electric articulated buses shown here. And they have many other practices and policies in their operations, and they are really doing their part in getting cleaner each year, applying for more grant funding. So congratulations to RTA. Coca-Cola Bottling Company United operates 8 hybrid electric trucks like this shown here. And Solar Alternatives is another small business. They help commercial businesses and residents install electric vehicle charging stations in conjunction with solar panels so that you're running your electric vehicle on sunlight. So congratulations to these top 3 electric fleets. Okay, biodiesel and ethanol. We only have 1 fleet in each category, so they're the top performer. Again, New Orleans RTA, They run 139 of their buses on a 5% biodiesel blend, recently received an FTA Low-No grant for these additional biodiesel buses. So congratulations to them on reducing gasoline gallons equivalent and greenhouse gases. And Entergy actually operates 139 ethanol cars and pickup trucks, which I found pretty interesting, that we don't have more biodiesel and ethanol fleets in the region. These two fleets have proven that the fuels are successful. So I think we're going to investigate a little bit more in this and see if maybe we can expand outreach and marketing for biodiesel and the ethanol if it's proven successful. Also, fun fact, New Orleans RTA is hiring a fleet technology manager. I just saw on their social media. So if you know anybody that might be interested in that position, a good candidate, reach out to me and I'll email you some information, or go to their website on their job board. Okay, odor reduction technology. So our top two performing fleets, Entergy, they have 2 APUs, auxiliary power units, in 2 of their heavy duty trucks shown here. And if you can see on that sticker, it says certified clean idle, which shows that that APU is certified by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And then New Orleans EMS, they recently installed APUs in 16 of their ambulances. They also have solar panels on top, which goes hand in hand. So these APUs help keep the AC running and the onboard diagnostics running, radio telecommunications without the engine running. So as Ann mentioned, it's one of the greatest fuel savers, no emissions. So we can provide more information on that if you are interested, or we have a list of various odor reduction technologies out there. We can help connect you if interested in such a project. But congratulations to Entergy and New Orleans EMS. Okay, so into our unique categories. We've never done different unique awards before, so I'm excited for this. So our Best Vehicle Replacement Project in 2020 award goes to New Orleans Public Belt Railroad. Last year, they upgraded their fleet of 15 older, high-emitting locomotives. They replaced those with 8 brand new Tier 1 locomotives, brand new engines, with auto reduction systems installed, that the auto start, auto shutdown system to help prevent wasted fuel and emissions. And so just with those 8 locomotives, they have each year, it's estimated that they will be reducing over 420,000 gallons of gasoline and reducing over 5,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So congratulations to New Orleans Public Belt for their fleet upgrade. The next award is the Best Community Partnership Award, which goes to the Port of New Orleans. Long deserved. We've never gave them a special award for this, but they are really doing their part in serving the community and serving the local port trucking industry. So they apply for federal and state grants, and then offer that funding to local truckers to purchase new drayage trucks. And old drayage trucks are, you've seen them on the road, all of the emissions if you get behind one. So this investment in local community and emissions reductions and fuel savings and quality of life for the truckers, it's been so impactful for the New Orleans region. They recently got more grant funding to continue this program. So we just want to say kudos to the Port of New Orleans and all of their clean trip participants. 58 trucks have been replaced to date, and they are expecting this funding will cover at least 40 more. And they are currently accepting applications, so go to their website if interested. Okay, and last but not least, our most diverse Clean Fleet Portfolio Award goes to Entergy. You can see all of the alt fuels that they use in their fleet in the New Orleans region: ethanol, CNG, electricity, propane, and idle reduction technologies. It's quite impressive. They are walking the walk. They are doing, their own research and their own pilot projects to help their customers, electric and natural gas, just to see what works best with different environments and different vehicles and equipment. Entergy is definitely one of our greatest partners. They are involved in a couple of active projects, like with Tulane University, who was just awarded funding from the Department of Energy for an electric shuttle bus demonstration project for 5 of their shuttles to run on campus. They have been a great partner in that project, partnering with the city of New Orleans on installing a great amount of public charging stations throughout the city. The list goes on, and Entergy is our keynote speaker tomorrow's resiliency session at 3 p.m. Entergy will be speaking for resiliency specifically in public fleets, but today is our keynote session at 1 p.m. with Michael Cross. He is Vice President of Innovation at Entergy, so definitely register for those 2 sessions with Entergy if you haven't already. So this is a list of all of our Clean Fleet leaders. We want to congratulate everyone. We will be mailing out certificates and prizes to each of you because we usually get together in person, but be expecting those very soon, and can't wait to see all of our Clean Fleets in person again very soon. And we hope to add to this list. If you know a Clean Fleet that's operating in the New Orleans region, please reach out to me so we can keep growing and expand our partnerships. And so if you're interested in being a Clean Fleet, know a Clean Fleet, or if you want to apply for grant funding, or if you have just general questions or need technical support, please feel free to reach out to us today. Maren Stevens is our new communications and outreach specialist, so you'll definitely be hearing more from her. If you're interested in subscribing to our monthly newsletter, please send her an email and she will add you to our contact list. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
Same thing for all of us. If you're in our territory, reach out to us. And if you reach out to the wrong Clean Cities Coalition, don't worry about it. We'll just send you over to the other one. And in some cases, both of us will be able to help you. All right, so next up, we have Tyler Herrmann, the co-coordinator for Louisiana Clean Fuels, to give a Volkswagen settlement update.
Good morning, everybody. As Anna said, I'm the co-coordinator for Louisiana Clean Fuels, and just give a small update about the Volkswagen settlement. So as many of you know, the Volkswagen settlement is a lot of money available for fleets in Louisiana to replace some old diesel vehicles. And unfortunately, all of the rounds of applications have closed as of now. So they are working on figuring out who they're going to give all the money to for the 3rd round, and actually starting to dispense a lot of those funds. So you can go to the next slide, Anne. So just looking at the round 3 applications, this is a very similar update to what I gave for our last meeting, if you are there. So I'll kind of blaze through it. But in round 3, there are lots of school bus applications, which was the main focus of the Volkswagen settlement here in Louisiana. And the subscribership for the third round was decent. 6 total school boards applied for buses, and 4 of them we're very happy to say were propane buses. So it was a mix of propane and diesel overall. And this totaled 59 new propane buses just through the third round of funding, which is very exciting. This is a pretty big increase from the previous rounds in alternative fuel applications. It's like something like a 20 or 30% increase. So we're very excited to get more propane buses compared to diesel, because the NOx reductions are pretty significant comparing the two. And that was the big focus of the Volkswagen settlement overall. And then we also had a lot of round 3 EVSE, so electric vehicle charging equipment applications in round 3. So round 2, there was only about $800,000 in eligible projects applied for. And round 3 totaled $5.6 million. And that was through a lot of work that we did, that Courtney's coalition did, and that a lot of our stakeholders did. So we had a lot of partnerships with the utilities and some of those fleets, and they were pushing it out and getting people to apply. So we're very, very excited to have more applications. And in my opinion, whenever you have more applications for this sort of stuff and you don't have enough money to fund it all, that means you can select the best ones. And so that really gets you better projects overall. And we're very happy to say that that many of the projects looked very, very good. They've supported our DC fast charging master plan, which many of you may know about, and they were along our corridors. So Anne mentioned the alternative fuel corridors earlier on, and a lot of this is going to go straight into making our corridors more robust for electrification in Louisiana. So we're very, very excited about that. There's approximately $1.6 million remaining for EVSE proposals, and that is being decided basically as we speak, and hopefully information will be sent out in the coming weeks about that to finalize all that information. So we're very quite excited. Go on, Anne. So the total funding to date, the $10.2 million have been allocated to school buses. So just a reminder, the total amount of funding for Volkswagen in our state was $18.6 million, and that went up a little bit due to the interest that money accrued. So something like $19 million, and about six odd million of it went straight to DOTD to replace their aging diesel fleet. So the remainder was for school buses and for electric vehicle charging equipment. So $10.2 million was put to school buses. The 16 parishes have received awards, and they're all throughout the state. So very diverse in terms of regions. 284 total buses have been funded, and the numbers here kind of shift a little bit as they negotiate with the parishes. So these are not necessarily hard numbers; they're very close to what's accurate, though. 155 of those were propane, and 129 were diesel. We're very happy to see one of those numbers larger than the other. That means we did our work properly. So far, about $690,000 have been awarded for electric vehicle charging equipment. So many of these are level 2 chargers for local areas like community colleges and such. 7 of them are DC fast chargers. And then we also have an overhead charger for the city of Shreveport's transit system, so Sportran. And so that's going to help them use their electric buses more effectively. We're very excited about that project as well. And then, like I mentioned, around $7 million or so has gone to Department of Transportation and Development, as well as some for the Department of Agriculture to replace some of their older vehicles. And then there's also a natural gas nurse truck for the town of Hornbeck to support their local CNG infrastructure that they have way out there in Hornbeck. We're very excited. They're very exciting. And then the future EVSE funding, again, that hasn't been firmly decided on yet, is totaling around $1.6 million. You can go on now. And then I wanted to mention, so all those numbers, like I said, were a little bit hazy just because you get final negotiations with the actual purchase contracts and such with the fleets. So it's hard to get really firm numbers until they're actually allocated. And you can see a chart here. This is just from the EDMS, the Electronic Data Management System for the LDEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality. And you can go on there and look at all these documents. They're all public record. The information I just gave was directly from that, and that's the most updated we have right now. But if you're a fleet and you have applied for any of these funds and you don't know where you are and you think maybe something got lost in the mail, you can check the EDMS and you can get a total breakdown of all the stuff that's been put there. They've been rather well labeled, so it should be pretty clear from there. And you can see these numbers. The total funds expended so far at the bottom there is around $10 million out of the total 19, and quite a bit else has been allocated, just waiting on those final negotiations with the fleets themselves to actually get those funds out to them. So you can go on, Anne. And then, like I mentioned, there's a document access. So if you want to go onto the EDMS and look yourself, you can definitely look. You got the web link there, edms.deq.louisiana.gov. But it's pretty easy to find just on Google or some other search program. And then the AI lookup number for Volkswagen, so you can just look at those, is 204948. And I'm sure many of you are very excited for the Volkswagen thing to be buttoned up and closed. And I can tell you that we are just as excited. And I yearn for the day where I don't remember that number like the back of my hand. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and I can address any of that to the best of my knowledge. But that's the majority of the update we have for Volkswagen this time around. And then I'm also going to talk some about our Green Fleets program. So we're very excited to say that what was formerly the Louisiana Clean Fuels Green Fleets program is now a statewide program. So we are now partnering with Courtney and Herrmann at the Southeast Louisiana Clean Fuel Partnership to make this a total statewide program. So it's one certification for everybody. And the goal of it's really to certify fleets who are doing excellent work and aren't getting the recognition for it. So to become a certified green fleet, I'll talk about it in a minute, you can enroll. And we basically look at your fleet's whole breakdown of the different fuels that you use and different vehicle types and everything. And we do a bunch of calculations to figure out what your actual emission savings are. So you can go to the next slide, Anne. So there's a bunch of things that this program does for you. So it's largely a recognition program so that you can actually get the recognition and promotion that you deserve for the great work that you've already done. But it's also an assistance program. You know, we provide a report describing the emissions reductions and how your fleet kind of looks. You know, which vehicles are maybe heavier emitters and might be a good, really suitable for replacement, so that you can kind of most effectively spend your dollars in that way. If certification logos that you can make stickers with and put them on your vehicles to show off, or put them on in news releases and all that sort of stuff. We make an entire PR kit for you with sample press releases and guidance on promoting your certification. And then whenever we do our events like this, we talk about our green fleets, and it's kind of good PR all around. This is now a 3-year certification, so it used to be annual, so you have to give your data annually, and that's just a lot of legwork on our point and on y'all's point. So we made that a 3-year certification, and we do look at the annual report data that Anne talked about a little bit to see whether or not things have changed a lot. And if they change significantly, usually they change for the better, and we see they're using more alternative fuels, we'll ping another certification and say, hey, we think that you might actually have gone up in points significantly enough to be the next level of certification. So that's usually a good thing for y'all. So I think the 3-year certification is a big change, so that it's a little bit easier to do and a little bit less legwork overall. You go on, Anne. And so the enrollment form is pretty simple. This is just our example one. I know that Courtney and Maren have a slightly different one that's branded differently. And it's just got simple fleet information. And then you can see down there, there's another slide that'll show this a little bit more clearly. But it's just a spreadsheet. You fill it out, with how many vehicles you have, what model year they are, what vehicle type they are, and how much they drive. And that's basically all we use for it. And with all that, we can calculate all the emissions. So if you require fleet data, model year, vehicle type, number of vehicles, vehicle mileage, and fuel use and type. So pretty simple stuff. And then we analyze all the emissions that we tend to care about. So your greenhouse gas emissions, your nitrogen oxides and NOx emissions and stuff that's pretty bad for lung health, particulate matter, and then the other criteria pollutants under the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So all that is calculated by A-Fleet, which is a great tool developed by Argonne National Labs, a world-around tool for emissions calculations and cost of ownership calculations. And we use that to the best of our ability to provide all the data that we can to you. Go on in. And then we have 5 certification levels. So it's a 5-star system, and you just have different point breakoffs. So we've designed it in such a way that the 1-star fleet is actually pretty impressive. We don't make it easy to get any level of certification. And then becoming a 5-star fleet is pretty amazing. So we both look at the emissions, like I was talking about in the last slide, but we also look at stuff like environmental plans, sustainability goals. Do you have an actual written down plan that you can kind of live by and reach your sustainability goals with? If you have a plan, we might look at it and say, okay, well, is it actionable? Do you actually have things on here that say, okay, we're going to replace these vehicles at this schedule, or whatever the deal might be? We can look at that and give a little bit more granular points just based on whether or not you have a good plan. And that's again a recent change that we've made to it that I think is really good, because sometimes fleets are early days in it, but they're still doing really great work and they have aggressive schedules. And I think that deserves recognition. You can go on, Anne. And then the green fleets that we have so far. So we have 5 green fleets who have been certified. We have UPS and Republic and Sportran are all 5-star fleets. They do incredible work, and we're very, very proud to have them. We have Corporate Green Construction or Green Seasons, and they're a 2-star fleet. And then we have Lake Charles Public Works Department. They're a 1-star fleet. And again, 1-star fleet's actually pretty impressive. We make that quite difficult to achieve. So we're very excited to have them. And if any of you are interested in participating, we'd love to get involved. And even if you don't get a certification the first time around, we can still provide that report and say, here's maybe some steps that you might be able to take to reach that. So this can be used before you even get into alternative fuels to try to assess your fleet. And we can try to tell you what you can best do to reduce your emissions and reduce your fuel usage. And I think that's all I've got, Ann.
Awesome.
And we have a website too.
Fantastic. So Tyler, is there any fee for someone to participate as a Louisiana Green Fleet?
There is no fee. It is all free to do. We just require your data. That's all we want.
Fantastic. Just want to make sure everybody knew that. We do not charge for participating in this program.
And I do have a question from the Q&A real quick. Whether any funds will go to Class 8 trucks for CNG. I believe that's regarding the Volkswagen settlement. There were no funds allocated to Class 8 trucks, at least not for public fleets. So DOTD may use some of their own funds for replacing their diesel vehicles, but to my knowledge, they're only replacing them with diesel vehicles. So they're not doing any alternative fuels in DOTD. So I do not believe that any funds will go to Class 8 CNG trucks in Louisiana with our Volkswagen dollars.
And I also believe that is due to the fact that when the DEQ put out their proposal and the request for proposals, that no Class 8 fleets requested funding to get CNG vehicles. So it's not that the DEQ was turning it down or not accepting applications for Class 8 vehicles, as no one proposed it. So they didn't even have the option of looking at that to be able to approve it or not.
Yeah, and then DEQ decided to focus on school buses as the primary goal for vehicle replacement. So unless there was funding remaining after the school buses, when their proposals were looked at, then they wouldn't have considered other fleet types under the settlement, at least under the DEQ and DNR's portion of the funding, which is around $12 million.
Awesome. So before we get to the rest of the Q&A for anyone else who has any questions, we want to go over the sessions that are still yet to come. So next today at 1 p.m. Central, we have our keynote presentation by Michael Cross. I know a couple of us have mentioned it already, but be sure to register for that one because it's going to be really interesting to see what Entergy is doing to help us move into this carbon neutral future and see how innovative their programs are going to be and how they're planning on responding to changes in technology and such. All of the session links can be found on the Louisiana Clean Fuels webpage underneath events. Go to the Clean Fuels Summit and you will scroll down and you can just click on each image and register individually for each session that is coming up. So this is the only other one today, 1 p.m. Central. We would love to see you there. And then tomorrow we have 3 sessions. The first at 10 a.m. is sustainable shipping. Now, there has been a change to this event. Richard Cawley has had something come up that is unavoidable, some issues he's not able to present at this particular time. So we will just be hearing from Mike McDonald, the corporate automotive Senior Director of Sustainability and Government Affairs for UPS. So we'll have a lot more time for Q&A with him tomorrow. And Richard or someone from Arrival will be joining us at a later date at another one of our webinars. So will be able to get to find out about this new OEM that is providing some electric vehicles that fleets like UPS will be utilizing in the future. Then next tomorrow, our second presentation is going to be our governor's Climate Initiative Task Force. We have 2 of the task force members who will be talking about their role in the program, what they see for the future of Louisiana, and what they believe will be what we need to do to meet our goals of net zero by 2050. There's a lot of things that we need to consider, and it's been a very in-depth and open process. So if you want to learn more about what we're doing, And I'm on one of the subcommittees. I'm not on the main task force, but I've been a member of the transportation committee, and I'll let you know there's been a lot of work going on. And if you want to catch up, listen to this session, and we can share links with you of past meetings and some of the open meetings. They're all available on a webpage on the governor's task force webpage. But we encourage you to register for that one tomorrow at 1 p.m. And finally, the last presentation that we have tomorrow is planning for resiliency. We're going to be looking at electric vehicles and public fleets. We will be having Dave Ushheim from Freewire. It is it's a startup company that has some chargers out in the real world. So this is not a new startup that has, demonstration projects. They're really out there with this great new product that you will hear about tomorrow. Moderated by Jared Schneider with CalStart. We have Eric Newberry with Entergy, who will be talking about all things resiliency as far as the utility perspective. Then we have a guest Clean Cities coordinator, Richard Battersby with East Bay Clean Cities Coalition, talking about some really interesting case studies. And I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion. It's going to be more of a roundtable style, not a whole lot of slides, which I'm sure all of you will appreciate. And again, you need to register for each of these individually on our website here. We'll have the links, and they will each be a new Zoom link for each one. All right, so now it's time to start looking at the Q&A. Does anyone have any more questions for the panelists here? And if you look in the chat, there is a direct link to our webpage. All right, so it looks like we don't have any additional questions. We did have one question earlier that we answered in the chat, where we had someone ask about the idle reduction technologies used. So Tyler and Maren, do you want to address that question for the whole group? About the idle reduction technologies that we have all employed in our fleets?
Sure. So there are a few of them. So it depends on the fleet, but the main technologies that we find used, at least in our fleets that we work with, are simple things like driver training that may not even be like a technology per se, where you just tell the drivers, hey, you need to make sure that you turn your engines off if you don't need it on. So that'll sometimes have policies where they have telematics in the vehicles themselves, and if they notice that they're idling, the vehicle will actually ping the driver. Sometimes it will just send them a text and say, hey, you need to turn the engine off. We've noticed that you're idling for this amount of time. We've heard of some fleets who have very strict policies with that, and they have some level of enforcement with it, or they just train their drivers, and their drivers just do a really good job. Either way, that's kind of a pretty solid approach that a lot of fleets use. That's very low budget and low technology and easy to implement. You also have technologies like automatic engine shutoff, where the engines just do it themselves. This is becoming more popular in passenger cars as well. Some of you may actually own a vehicle that does this, and the engine will just turn off after a set amount of time and then turn right back on whenever it's needed again. And that can be a pretty effective technology as well. And then we have stuff like shore power, which is becoming a lot more popular in our ports, where as opposed to the ships driving up and hanging out there and using their onboard diesel generators to produce their electricity to power the ship itself, they'll actually connect to grid power. And those diesel generators are not incredibly efficient. They're sized for moving the entire ship, but they're only being asked to produce a few kilowatts of electricity or whatever it might be. That's not a very efficient use of that engine. So you can connect to the grid and A, save a ton of money, but also B, save a ton of fuel and emissions. So that's a really effective technology that I think is becoming a lot more popular these days. And then they have some other stuff like you can have auxiliary power units, which might be a battery or something that can power your electronics on your vehicle whenever your engine's turned off. You have stuff like truck stop electrification, where the truck will pull up to a truck stop, and as opposed to using the engine for electricity overnight whenever the driver's sleeping or resting or whatever the deal might be, they can connect to either an electric hookup at the actual truck stop, or they actually have these whole like little cool window units that pull up to the vehicle and provide sometimes Wi-Fi, electricity, and all sorts of cool stuff and air conditioning. So lots of really interesting technologies out there. Some of them use more than others in certain situations.
Thank you, Tyler. Now we do have a question in the Q&A. Will Class 8 vehicles have any funding this year? Now, we don't have the crystal ball to know what DOE or others like EPA will put out, although there's some revolving grants. The DERA is the Diesel Emission Reduction Act. So you can keep up with that grant and you are able to replace diesel vehicles with cleaner technologies. That is a revolving grant that comes out every single year. And occasionally the Department of Energy will have technology integration and rollout projects where you can apply for funding to replace your vehicles. There is a grant right now that applications are due soon, but you would have had to already have a concept paper in, but that was for electric vehicles. So if you just keep up with our websites, sign up at grants.gov for natural gas or vehicle technologies, notifications, you can find out when those come out. But Courtney and Tyler and I, we also track those and we try to keep notices up on our website. So sign up for both of our newsletters if you want to find out if there is an open funding opportunity near you. So we will be tracking that and watching it closely. Let me see if there's any more. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So this is a last call for questions before we wrap up with our opening session of the Clean Fuels Summit. All right, seeing that there's no more questions, we want to thank you all so much for showing up. We want to see you all again at 1 o'clock at our keynote presentation. And make sure you sign up for that. If you need the link, go ahead and look in the chat. There is the direct link there. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, everyone.